Every man craves comfort, a warm bed, food on demand, a phone buzzing with endless entertainment, everything within arm's reach so you never have to move, never have to fight, never have to struggle. And on the surface, that sounds like paradise. But the truth is, it's the most dangerous prison you could ever walk into. Comfort doesn't announce itself as your enemy. It doesn't walk through the front door with a weapon in its hand. It sneaks in quietly, and you invite it because it feels good. But what feels good in the moment almost always kills you in the long run. Comfort is the silent assassin of ambition, the thief of discipline, the destroyer of greatness. Think about it. Look at history. Every man who ever built something legendary, every warrior, every conqueror, every king, every entrepreneur who left a mark on the world had one thing in common. He rejected comfort. He chose the path that hurt. He chose the path of sacrifice. He chose to embrace struggle when others ran from it. And that's why his name is remembered. But today, men have been tricked. Society tells you comfort is the goal. Work hard until you can relax. Work hard until you can retire. Work hard so you can finally do nothing. That's the biggest lie you've been fed. Because the second you stop struggling, you stop living. The second you sink into comfort, your edge disappears. The fire in your eyes fades. You lose your hunger. And when a man loses hunger, he loses everything. The system wants you comfortable. Think about why. Because a comfortable man doesn't fight back. A comfortable man doesn't question the rules. A comfortable man doesn't resist. He sits quietly, consumes endlessly, obeys blindly. And the men in power, the system, the corporations, they love that. They profit off it. They grow stronger while you grow weaker. That's why they build a world that makes everything easy. Instant food, instant gratification, instant entertainment, instant pleasure. You never have to fight for anything. And because you don't fight, you don't value, you don't respect what you have because it was handed to you without pain. And the truth is, anything you didn't suffer for will never satisfy you. Comfort is not just a state of being, it's a slow death. It's a slow poison. One day of comfort turns into a week into a year, and before you know it, 5 years have passed and you're the same man you were before. Weaker, softer, slower, lazier. And you look around wondering why nothing has changed, but the answer is simple. You chose the couch instead of the grind. You chose the pillow instead of the pain. You chose comfort instead of challenge. And comfort is always the wrong choice. What's worse is how comfort tricks your brain. It convinces you you're safe. It whispers, stay here, don't take the risk, don't step out, don't push yourself. It creates an illusion of security. But in reality, the man who seeks comfort lives in more danger than the man who seeks war. Why? Because the comfortable man is unprepared. The comfortable man is soft. The comfortable man cannot defend himself, cannot adapt, cannot thrive when life punches him in the face. And make no mistake, life will hit you. Comfort is a shield made of paper, and when the storm comes, it will tear apart instantly. Then, you'll see that truth comfort never protected you. It only left you defenseless. You've seen it before. Look around. Look at men your age who chose comfort. Look at the ones who spend hours scrolling, eating junk, never training, never building. Do they look alive, or do they look like they're slowly fading away? That's what comfort does. It steals the spark from your eyes. It takes away masculinity. It takes away purpose. And when purpose is gone, a man is nothing. He's a shadow walking through life, existing but not living. On the other hand, look at the rare few who reject comfort. The man who wakes up early, even when he doesn't want to. The man who goes to the gym, not because it feels good, but because it feels hard. The man who chases goals that scare him, that demand sweat and blood. You can see the difference in him. His eyes are sharp, his voice carries power, his presence commands respect. He's alive, he's dangerous. And he's dangerous because he's uncomfortable. He doesn't need comfort to feel alive. He doesn't seek ease, he seeks resistance. And in resistance, he becomes unstoppable. Understand this. The trap of comfort is not just about what you do today, it's about who you become tomorrow. Every small choice builds the man you are. Every time you choose comfort, you're practicing weakness, you're rehearsing laziness, you're teaching your mind to quit. And one day, when real hardship comes, and it will, your mind will already be programmed to fold. But every time you reject comfort, every time you push past resistance, every time you embrace discomfort, You're building armor. You're building discipline. You're teaching your brain to thrive in pain. And when hardship comes, you won't just survive it, you'll dominate it. That's why comfort is the real enemy, because it feels harmless, because it feels right, because it convinces you you're winning when in reality you're losing everything that makes you a man. Comfort is the most dangerous addiction in the world because it looks like peace, but it breeds weakness. And the man who falls in love with comfort has already signed his death certificate, not physical death, but the death of his potential, his ambition, his greatness. Pain is the greatest teacher a man will ever know. Not books, not classrooms, not the comfortable advice of people who never risked anything. Real growth, real transformation comes through pain. It comes through moments when your lungs are burning, your muscles are screaming, your mind is begging you to quit, but something inside refuses. That moment right there is where a savage mind is forged. People spend their entire lives avoiding pain, running from discomfort, doing everything possible to shield themselves from struggle. And that's why they never grow. Because without pain, you remain soft. Without pain, you remain average. Without pain, you never find out who you truly are. Pain strips away illusions. When life hurts, you see yourself clearly. There's no mask, no excuses, no pretending. When you're in the middle of struggle, it reveals what you're made of. Pain tells you the truth about yourself. Are you disciplined or are you lazy? Are you committed or are you a quitter? Are you a man who rises under pressure or a man who crumbles the moment things get hard? Pain answers those questions without hesitation. That's why I tell people never avoid pain. Never run from it. Run into it. Because the more you embrace pain, the more you learn about your strength, your resilience, your limits, and how far past those limits you can go. Most people misunderstand pain. They think it's punishment. They think it means something is wrong. But pain is not punishment. Pain is instruction. It's life showing you where you need to toughen up. The man who lifts weights and feels his muscles ache is not being punished. He's being built. The man who pushes through rejection after rejection in business is not being punished. He's being taught how to endure, how to adapt, how to sharpen his strategy. Every painful moment is an opportunity to evolve. But the weak mindset looks at pain as suffering. The strong mindset looks at pain as education. Think about the strongest men in history. Soldiers who marched through frozen fields with no food, yet still fought. Athletes who trained until their bodies broke, then came back stronger. Leaders who endured betrayal, hardship, and loss, yet kept moving forward. None of them became who they were by living in ease. They became who they were because pain was their daily companion. Pain was their teacher. And instead of complaining, instead of seeking pity, they listened, they learned, they grew sharper, they grew harder, they became unshakable. Pain also teaches perspective. When you've suffered, when you've struggled, when you've endured, you appreciate victories more deeply. You value success because you know what it cost. That's why the man who has never struggled can never truly be satisfied. He doesn't understand value. He doesn't know what it means to pay with blood, sweat, and tears. He wants everything handed to him, and when he gets it, it feels empty. But the man who suffered for what he earned, the man who fought tooth and nail, the man who endured pain at every step, when he finally wins, that victory tastes sweeter than anything else in the world. Pain taught him to appreciate the prize. You can't run from pain anyway. Life will bring it to you whether you want it or not. People you love will die. Friends will betray you. Businesses will fail. Your body will break down. These things are guaranteed, but the difference between men lies in preparation. The man who has trained with pain, who has made it his ally, who has chosen discomfort every day, that man is ready. Life's punches don't break him, they sharpen him. But the man who spent his whole life avoiding pain, hiding in comfort, when reality finally hits him, he shatters. He doesn't know how to handle it because he's never practiced. That's the tragedy of comfort. It leaves you unprepared for the inevitable pain of life. Pain is not optional, but how you face it is. The savage mind doesn't fear pain. It doesn't cry for mercy when life gets tough. It doesn't waste time complaining about how unfair things are. The savage mind welcomes pain like an old friend because it understands pain is the path to power. Every scar is a lesson. Every hardship is a chapter. Every drop of sweat and every sleepless night is a deposit into the bank of greatness. And when the time comes to cash out, when life puts the savage against the soft, there's no competition. The man who lived with pain, who trained with pain, who was educated by pain, dominates every single time. There's a strange beauty in pain, because the more you suffer willingly, the less suffering has power over you. When you train yourself to endure discomfort daily, when you push yourself into painful places on purpose, pain loses its control. You don't fear it anymore. You don't run from it. You see it for what it really is, growth disguised as hardship. And the man who sees that, the man who embraces that, becomes unstoppable. He is no longer scared of failure, no longer afraid of loss, no longer intimidated by struggle. Because he knows, no matter how bad it hurts, it's only making him stronger. Motivation is the biggest lie of modern culture. People wait around for it like it's some magical spark that's going to come and save them, like it's going to wake them up early, drag them to the gym, build their business, fix their life. They sit scrolling, listening to motivational clips, feeling inspired for 2 minutes, and then they fall right back into the same lazy cycle. That's the problem with motivation. It dies, it's fragile, it's unreliable. If your life depends on motivation, you're finished before you even start, because there will always be days when you don't feel like doing the work. There will always be days when you're tired, when you're uninspired, when you're drained. And on those days, motivation is nowhere to be found. The only thing that carries you through is discipline. Discipline is not about feelings. It doesn't care whether you're happy, sad, or bored. Discipline is about action. It's about showing up regardless of how you feel. That's what separates men who succeed from men who stay stuck. The disciplined man does what needs to be done whether he wants to or not. The lazy man waits until he feels ready, and that day never comes. Discipline builds results, motivation builds excuses, and that's the brutal truth most people don't want to hear. Think about a soldier. A soldier doesn't rely on motivation to march through mud, to fight battles, to stand in freezing weather for hours. He relies on discipline. He's trained to act no matter what his mind screams at him. He's programmed to move forward even when every bone in his body begs to quit. That's why soldiers are dangerous. That's why they can achieve things ordinary men cannot. They've replaced emotion with discipline. And that's the formula every man needs if he wants to become unbreakable. The truth is, motivation is emotional. Discipline is logical. Motivation is short-term. Discipline is permanent. Motivation whispers, do it when you feel like it. Discipline commands, do it because it must be done. The savage mind is not built on feelings. It's built on structure, on consistency, on discipline that doesn't bend or break. That's why discipline produces results long after motivation has disappeared. The body you want, the wealth you dream of, the respect you crave, none of that comes from temporary sparks of motivation. It comes from disciplined, relentless effort repeated daily until it's impossible for you to lose. Discipline is also freedom. Weak men think discipline is slavery, that it's a restriction, that it robs you of fun. But that's because they don't understand. The man who lives by discipline is the freest man alive. He's free from the chains of laziness. He's free from the ups and downs of feelings. He's free from weakness because he doesn't negotiate with himself. The man without discipline is the true slave. He's a slave to moods, to impulses, to distractions, to the cheap dopamine hits of modern life. He wakes up late, wastes time, and then wonders why his life is empty. The disciplined man wakes up early, executes his mission, and his life is full of results. Discipline gives you power over yourself, and if you cannot control yourself, you will never control anything else in this world. When you look at men who have built empires, athletes who have broken records, fighters who have gone undefeated, entrepreneurs who have risen from nothing, they didn't do it because they were motivated every single day. They did it because they were disciplined. They trained when nobody was watching. They worked when nobody applauded. They sacrificed when everyone else was partying. And that's why they stand above the crowd. Their victories were not born out of temporary motivation. They were built brick by brick through the relentless application of discipline. You have to understand, motivation is like sugar. It gives you a quick rush, then it disappears and leaves you empty. Discipline is like steel. It doesn't fade, it doesn't weaken, it doesn't vanish when things get hard. Motivation will get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going when everything in you wants to stop. That's the difference between the man who finishes the marathon and the man who quits halfway. That's the difference between the man who builds a life of greatness and the man who lives a life of regret. The savage mind knows that discipline is not about punishment, it's about preparation. It's about building habits so strong that even on your worst day, you still perform. Even when you're exhausted, you still execute. Even when you're broken, you still show up, because discipline doesn't negotiate. It doesn't allow weakness to creep in. It's the armor you wear every single day, and with it, you can walk into any battle and come out alive. That's why every man who wants to be more than average has to kill his dependence on motivation and replace it with unshakable discipline. Because the day you stop waiting to feel ready and start acting regardless of how you feel, that's the day you step into power. That's the day you start becoming dangerous. That's the day you stop living like everyone else and start living like a savage. Most men run from hardship as if it's a disease. They think life is supposed to be easy, smooth, painless. They've been told that the goal is comfort, the dream is relaxation, the reward is to sit down and never be challenged again. But the savage mind knows the opposite is true. If you want to be strong, if you want to be unbreakable, if you want to stand above the crowd, you have to rewire your brain to see hardship not as punishment, but as training. You have to reprogram yourself to crave discomfort, to lean into it, to choose it when everyone else avoids it. Because the man who loves hardship becomes unstoppable. He becomes the one who doesn't fold under pressure, the one who thrives where others collapse. The way most men think is simple hardship equals suffering. Their brain tells them discomfort is bad, that it must be avoided, that if something hurts, it's a sign to stop. That's the default wiring of the weak. But the savage rewires his mind. He teaches himself that discomfort is growth, that hardship is sharpening, that pain is progress. Every time he steps into a cold shower, every time he lifts when his muscles already ache, every time he fasts when food is right there in front of him, every time he chooses discipline over indulgence, he's programming his brain. He's teaching himself to embrace hardship like it's fuel. And eventually, the mind shifts. What once felt unbearable begins to feel normal. What once scared you becomes your environment. That's the rewiring process. It's not easy. Your mind will resist at first. It will scream at you. It will fight to pull you back into the warm bed, into the junk food, into the soft life. Your instincts will beg you to stop when the pressure builds. But you have to push past that moment. That's the battle where the rewiring happens. Every time you push through resistance, you carve a new pathway in your mind. The old wiring says quit, but the new wiring says keep going. The old wiring says seek comfort, but the new wiring says seek struggle. Over time, your brain stops associating hardship with suffering and starts associating it with progress. You stop avoiding hard things and start craving them. And when you reach that stage, you are no longer like everyone else. You've separated yourself. You've created a savage mind. Look at the average man today. He avoids every possible hardship. He turns on the heater when it's cold, the AC when it's hot, the TV when he's bored, the phone when he's anxious. He medicates every discomfort instantly. He never allows himself to sit in silence, to face struggle, to feel real resistance. That's why he's weak. That's why he breaks under the slightest pressure. He never built the wiring for resilience. His brain has been trained to escape, not to endure. So when life actually gets difficult, he has no chance. But the savage is different. The savage has trained himself to endure voluntarily. He's chosen hardship daily, so when real hardship arrives, he doesn't collapse, he thrives. Rewiring your mind for hardship is about conditioning. Just like a fighter conditions his body to take punches, you condition your mind to take struggle. A fighter who never gets hit in training will crumble the first time he steps in the ring. But the fighter who has been tested, who has taken pain, who has endured it again and again, walks into the ring with no fear. That's the same with life. You have to spar with hardship daily so that when the real battle comes, you are already prepared. You don't fear it because you've lived it. When you start seeing hardship differently, something changes inside you. You stop resenting it. You stop wishing it away. You stop seeing challenges as unfair and start seeing them as opportunities. Suddenly, failure doesn't scare you because you know failure is part of the process. Rejection doesn't crush you because you've built the mind to handle it. Pain doesn't stop you because you've wired yourself to see pain as a sign you're moving forward. Every single hardship becomes fuel. And the man who runs on hardship is a man no one can defeat. Because you can strip away his comfort, you can push him into the fire, you can test him beyond limits, and he'll still keep going. He'll even smile through it, because his mind has been rewired to love what breaks others. This is what most people don't understand. The real battle is not physical, it's mental. Anyone can lift a weight once. Anyone can go for a run once. Anyone can suffer briefly. But to endure it repeatedly, to choose it voluntarily, to make hardship a lifestyle, that requires rewiring, that requires transforming your brain into a machine that thrives in discomfort. And once you do that, life becomes different. What's unbearable for others becomes normal for you. What terrifies them excites you. What breaks them builds you. The savage mind doesn't just endure hardship, it craves it. Because it understands that every moment of struggle is sculpting, every ounce of discomfort is forging, every test of pain is creating an edge that comfort can never produce. And the man who has that edge is the man who rises while the rest fall behind. Struggle is not your enemy. Struggle is the raw material out of which greatness is built. The problem is that most men see struggle as a curse. They see it as bad luck, as misfortune, as a reason to complain, but the savage mind sees it differently. Struggle is the gym where strength is trained. Struggle is the forge where resilience is hammered. Struggle is the battlefield where character is tested. Every hardship you've ever faced, every failure, every setback, every moment you thought would break you, that wasn't the end, that was the beginning. That was the moment life handed you the tools to build yourself into something stronger, sharper, harder to kill. Think about it. A diamond doesn't come out of the earth shining. It starts as coal, black and ordinary. Only under immense pressure, only through struggle does it become unbreakable. That's the same with you. You start ordinary. You start weak, soft, average. The struggle is what applies pressure. The struggle is what turns you into something rare, something valuable, something indestructible. The man who avoids struggle never transforms. He stays coal forever, dark and common. But the man who embraces struggle, who lets it pressure him, mold him, sharpen him, becomes the diamond. He becomes the one people look at with awe because he paid the price through suffering. Failure itself is not a problem. Struggle itself is not a problem. The problem is the way men interpret it. A weak man sees failure as a reason to quit. He sees rejection as proof he's not good enough. He sees struggle as punishment. But the savage mind flips it. He sees failure as data. He sees rejection as redirection. He sees struggle as training. Every time he falls, he studies why. Every time he's rejected, he sharpens his approach. Every time life throws him into fire, he comes out harder, tougher, more dangerous. That's the difference. The same struggle that destroys the weak builds the strong, simply because of the way they use it. The truth is, the world respects men who have suffered. You can see it in their presence, in their eyes, in their energy. A man who's been through struggle walks differently. He speaks differently. He doesn't need to talk about it. You can feel it. He carries scars, not just on his body, but in his soul, and those scars radiate strength. You know he's been tested, and you know he survived. That survival gives him authority, respect, power. Weak men hide from struggle because they want to avoid pain. Strong men embrace struggle because they know pain is the currency of power. Every ounce of suffering you endure is an investment into the man you're becoming. Look at the greatest champions in any field. Fighters who bled in training, who suffered defeats, who endured ridicule but kept fighting. Entrepreneurs who went bankrupt, who lost everything, who were laughed at but rebuilt stronger. Leaders who were betrayed, who stood alone, who carried the weight of failure but refused to stop. These men didn't become great despite their struggles. They became great because of them. The struggle was not a roadblock. It was the foundation. It gave them the toughness, the sharpness, the depth of character that no easy life could ever produce. Struggle also builds gratitude. When you've fought for everything you have, when you've earned it through sleepless nights, sweat, and sacrifice, you value it differently. You don't take it for granted because you know what it cost. The man who never struggled has no appreciation. He squanders opportunities because they came too easily. But the man who clawed his way through hardship, who bled for every inch of progress, treasures what he builds. That gratitude fuels him to protect it, to grow it, to honor it. That's how struggle not only creates strength, but also creates wisdom. You cannot live without struggle. And even if you try, life will force it on you. People you love will die. You will lose things you thought were permanent. You will face challenges you never expected. These struggles are not optional. They are coming. The only question is, will you let them crush you, or will you turn them into strength? Will you whine, complain, and collapse, or will you rise, adapt, and sharpen? That choice is what separates men who stay weak from men who become legends. The savage mind makes that choice daily. He doesn't wait for struggle to find him, he seeks it. He trains harder than necessary. He takes on challenges that scare him. He puts himself in uncomfortable positions because he knows each struggle is making him stronger. He knows every hardship adds another layer of armor. He knows every setback is secretly a setup for growth. And when life finally hits him with something massive, something that would destroy the average man, he smiles. Because he's been here before. He's trained for this. He doesn't see struggle as destruction. He sees it as transformation. The truth is, strength is not built in calm seas. It's built in storms. You don't learn to fight when everything is easy. You learn to fight when everything is against you. That's why the savage mind doesn't curse struggle, he welcomes it. He knows that every ounce of pain today is power tomorrow. He knows that every fall is another step toward mastery. He knows that without struggle, he'd be soft, fragile, forgettable. But with struggle, he becomes solid, unshakable, unforgettable. At the end of every man's life, there's a simple truth waiting for him. He will either die as a savage or as a slave. There is no middle ground. You are either the master of yourself, or you are owned by comfort, owned by weakness, owned by everything and everyone that controls the average man. Living as a savage means you have chosen to rise above mediocrity, chosen to fight against the tide of softness, chosen to live with fire in your soul. Living as a slave means you surrendered without ever realizing it. You surrendered to ease, to laziness, to the endless distractions designed to keep you docile. And the tragedy is that most men today are living as slaves without chains. Slaves who think they're free because their prison looks comfortable. Look at the modern world. Everything around you is designed to soften you. Food is delivered in minutes without effort. Entertainment is endless at the touch of a button. Work can be done without ever leaving your chair. They tell you this is progress, that this is the life you should want. But it's a trap, because with every convenience you embrace, with every shortcut you take, you surrender a piece of your strength. Slowly, without even noticing, you become weaker, softer, duller. And by the time you realize it, you've already been tamed. You've already become a slave to comfort, a slave to consumption, a slave to the system that profits off your weakness. The savage mind refuses that fate. The savage mind rejects the illusion of freedom. He understands that true freedom is not doing whatever feels good in the moment. True freedom is mastery over yourself. If you cannot control your desires, you are not free. If you cannot command your body, you are not free. If you cannot silence the voice in your head that begs you to quit, you are not free. You are a slave dressed as a man. The savage sees this truth, and that's why he disciplines himself, why he rejects ease, why he chooses pain over comfort. Because every act of discipline is an act of liberation. Every sacrifice is a weapon against slavery. Every hardship endured is another chain broken. Living as a savage doesn't mean you live without struggle. It means you embrace struggle as your way of life. It means when others run from challenges, you run toward them. It means when the world tells you to slow down, you accelerate. It means when your mind screams for rest, you keep pushing. That is how you separate yourself from the masses. That is how you rise above the billions who will die as slaves. Because the truth is, the savage is rare. Most men will never have the courage to reject the easy path. Most men will never have the will to walk alone into the fire. Most men will never demand greatness from themselves. And that is why most men will never taste true freedom. Living as a slave is not always obvious. Slavery today is subtle. It's hidden behind addictions, behind laziness, behind comfort that looks harmless. A man addicted to food, to alcohol, to drugs, to endless entertainment, he's a slave. A man who cannot wake up when he says he will, who cannot keep the promises he makes to himself, he's a slave. A man who hides from pain, who avoids responsibility, who chooses distraction over discipline, he's a slave. And he will remain a slave until he chooses to fight back, until he chooses to kill the weak version of himself and build a savage mind. The savage understands one thing clearly: weakness invites control. If you are weak, someone stronger will own you. If you cannot fight, someone will conquer you. If you cannot resist temptation, temptation will consume you. Weak men are controlled by their environment. Strong men control their environment. That's the line that separates the savage from the slave. The savage dictates his life. The slave waits for life to dictate to him. The savage commands respect. The slave begs for scraps. The savage builds. The slave consumes. The savage is remembered. The slave is forgotten. When you live as a savage, you become dangerous. Not reckless, but dangerous in the sense that nothing can break you. People feel it in your presence. They see it in your discipline. They hear it in your voice. They recognize a man who is not controlled by comfort, not seduced by ease, not chained by fear. That kind of man intimidates the weak, inspires the lost, and commands authority without asking for it. That is the life of a savage, and it is available to anyone willing to pay the price. But the price is high. It costs your comfort. It costs your excuses. It costs your softness. But what you gain in return is priceless freedom, respect, power, legacy. Every day you wake up, you are faced with the choice again: savage or slave. Do you get out of bed early and execute, or do you hit snooze and surrender? Do you train when you don't feel like it, or do you fold? Do you keep your word to yourself, or do you betray it? Each choice builds your identity. Each choice decides your fate. No one else decides for you. You decide, and every day you either sharpen the savage or strengthen the slave. That's why a man must live with awareness. You must see through the trap set for you. You must see comfort for what it is, a chain. You must see weakness for what it is, slavery. And you must see struggle for what it is, freedom. Because in the end, no one escapes the truth. You will live as a savage or you will die as a slave. In the end, life is not about how much comfort you collected, how much ease you enjoyed, or how often you chose the soft path. Life is about who you became when faced with resistance. It's about whether you forged yourself into a man who commands respect, or if you allowed yourself to decay into weakness. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it robs you of greatness. Pain feels unbearable in the moment, but it forges strength that lasts a lifetime. The choice has always been simple: live soft and die forgotten, or live savage and leave a legacy that echoes. Every day, the world offers you chains disguised as pleasures. Every day, comfort whispers in your ear, asking you to take the easy way out. And every day, you must answer the call of discipline, the call of struggle, the call of the savage. That choice defines you, not just once, not just in big moments, but in every small decision you make. Every rep in the gym, every early morning you rise, every temptation you refuse, every standard you uphold. These are the bricks with which you build a savage mind. When you destroy comfort, you liberate yourself. When you embrace struggle, you rise above the masses. When you build a savage mind, you become unbreakable, unstoppable, undeniable. That is the life reserved for the few willing to pay the price. And that life, the life of freedom, respect, power, and legacy, is waiting for you if you dare to take it. So look at yourself in the mirror, strip away the excuses, and make the decision. From this moment forward, choose to live as a savage, not a slave. Because one day, when it's all over, the world will remember not how comfortable you were, but how powerful you became.